camera. Yeah, it's pointing the wrong way. There we go. Flip that around. Hey, how's it going, guys? Okay, so this is just a stream of me kind of working through some technical rigging considerations. I'm actually going to sort of revisit this tail and problem solve it, so I thought I'd broadcast this. Also, I'm going to go and add some title screens, right? So I'm finding that I'm multi-streaming, and my title is ending up on my Twitch page, but my YouTube videos don't have any titling, and my tweets don't have any titling. So I'm going to try to make a bunch of title screens. Just looking for After Effects templates, but you know what? It's taking me about as long to find an After Effects template as it is for me to just get down there and make the damn thing. So, I don't know. I'm going to get around to making some title screens. I'll probably put some really cheesy placeholders in. Even just a Photoshop image is fine. Just as a title card so you guys can tell what topic I'm going to be talking about as I jump around from topics on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so I'm going to come back here. There were a couple of different issues with this tail. I've made a few schoolboy errors, and I think part of it was just trying to rig and teach at the same time, as well as I haven't rigged a tail in like years. So, and it was slightly different when I rigged the tail back in the day. I'm into clusters and all that kind of stuff. It's surprising to see that that's still kind of a relevant technique, but let's go through and change a few things here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that geometry. There was a jump, by the way, with the tail, where the tail sort of leapt out, and actually I thought that was sort of inherited transforms on the joint chain, but it wasn't. It's how the joint chain adjusts to the number of spans that you specify in the IK-Spline handler. IK-Spline creation tool. Okay, so let's start off by going in, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to remove skinning this way because it looks like it's a cleaner solution than simply what I did in the past. What I'd simply just go in here and edit, delete by type history, modify freeze transformations, right? But I noticed during the middle of the lecture last time, I ran into a number of issues with that, right? So I'm going to choose a different methodology for doing that. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this sort of business, and actually I could probably use the same joint chain. I'm just trying to think what would be a good way without having to sort of repeat a lot of the steps that I've already kind of gone through. I want to double check my transforms just on the joints. Yeah, the joints are all properly zeroed out. We've got a translation in the Y on the root joint, but that's okay to have translates there. I just want to double check these guys all the way down. Oh, that's my root joint and effector. Yeah, I wanted to insert a joint there and add a little bit of an indication of a head. So I'm going to try a couple of techniques that I haven't used in a while to sort of sort that out. There's a rotate Z on here as well. Don't like that. So what I might do is I might, I'll tell you what, I'll show you a quick rigging trick that I learned back in the day. Let's rebuild this guy. I'm actually going to come down here and, yeah, let's kill those groups because I sort of rushed through it. And let's get rid of the constraints for the time being. Let's get a nice clean joint chain, right? There you go, there's the joints and then the end effector. That's cool. Let me grab the curve, let's kill that, and the IK handle, we'll get rid of that as well, right? So I want to come down here, and I'll use parenting for the solution here. I'm not entirely sure I want to do that again, but let's come in here and go. Let's label these guys properly. Right. So tail 2. Tail 3. And one thing that we needed here was to just do a quick Control D and move this guy out here. And yeah, I haven't center snapped these guys. So that's okay. I'm going to call that control tail 4 and then label that end. So we got a clear idea of the controls that we have here. Now I'm going to sort of readjust some of these joints. So first of all, I'm going to grab that's the root joint and that's the tail, right? So we'll go body 1. And we'll take this. I'm going to take that, I'm going to right click and select hierarchy, right? Let's chuck that in the display layer, right? And I'll turn the templating on so we can't really grab that one, right? Actually, I'm going to turn on referencing so we can see a little bit clearer. And we can work with it there. Oh, interesting. What are these joints? So we got the tail joints coming down this way. Let's kill these guys. Where did those guys come from? I don't remember doing that in the last session. Ooh, look at that. That's really interesting. Let's delete those guys anyway. Don't need those. And I'm gonna switch over to my right view, so we got a nice orthographic view. Now, there was a way of inserting a joint. There we go, insert joint. So if I click here, that's cool. That's kind of what I was after. I'm gonna create sort of the sensation of a head here. I also want to, let's actually come down here. And we've got actually this guy, we got the translate X, right? So if we adjust the translate X, we'll be adjusting, let's give it an exact. We'll be adjusting the scaling of our joint, but not adding to the transforms, right? So that's a nice quick way of just making sort of a few manual adjustments here. So I'm clicking on the translate channel and raising this guy up for me, right? So I'll pop him up there. And I'm just rounding off some of these values a little bit, just to make for nice cleaner numbers, cleaner translations, things like that. Yeah, let's go ahead and make this guy 20. So at this point, again, I'm cleaning up the joint chain. That joint chain's looking really good to me, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to come over here and save the scene. Now, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on incremental save. It's on. So this saves versions for me as I'm iterating through this skeleton. So we have loads of issues with the tail. I think I just sort of rushed through it. I was going to show you this trick where you can rebuild the joint chain. I'll just show you actually. So you can come over here and create joints. Oops, not insert. I'm going to come over to skeleton and create joints. Now this is what I used to do when I wanted to get perfectly oriented joints built into a skeleton, but I wanted to sketch out the skeleton first. So Maya orients the joints for you perfectly right from the get-go, right when you create it, right? So here's what I do. I create again, a junk skeleton, right? And with this, you don't have to worry about the transforms. You can just manipulate this guy however you want, right? And I'm going to make this a straight line, actually. Oh, you know what we'll do? Let's do that. So let's grab this guy, move this guy over, and I'm going to come in through here, and oops. And yeah, let's actually back this up. Let's try and make these changes orthographic, right? Let's do the old translate X, right? Oh, see, that's not going to work because our orientations are off. But here's what I was going to do, right? Inside a display layer, when you template and reference, what happens is you can see clearly your joints, but you just can't select it, right? But when I come in here to create a skeleton, right, I can hold down V for component snap, and I can just redraw my skeleton. Not only will it snap to my rough skeleton, it'll have clean transforms all the way through. So that's all I was going to do. But when I'm looking at this, there's so many issues with the original skeleton. I'm just going to grab that tail and just delete it, kill it, and let's sort of build this guy from scratch a little bit. Now, with, again, this emphasizes the importance of modeling at world 0, 0, 0. Hey guys, is that you will need, in a lot of instances, the exactness of the orthographic views and being located at world 0, 0, 0. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to create a new joint chain. This time, I'm going to do it a little bit more properly, right? So let's see about giving it a little bit of a base here. And you know what? I want a little bit more on my grid when I'm snapping this. So I'll add a few more subdivisions. Let's double the subdivisions, right? So I'm going to say double those, right? And is that cutting through for me a little bit? Let's try and triple them and see if we get a tighter grid just for now, right? That's cool. I want to follow, whoops, this line all the way down. So now I'm going to go through a grid snap, right? So I'm going to hit the X key to snap to grid. I'm still inside my joint creation tool, right? And I'm just going to go all the way through every 3 squares, right? It's a tight chain. I want to experiment with this. One of the things I like about a tight chain is it gives you nice curves, right? And we'll also go back and we'll adjust the geometry of the tail a little bit as well, right? And then that'll be our end effector. And I'm going to hit enter. So there's our joints, right? So I'm going to come through here. Now, what I want to do is I want to actually approach this a little bit differently than I did before. I'm going to try to create a joint chain that can support both IK and FK blending, right? So we'll walk through that a little bit. So even though the last lecture was a little bit of a stumbling block in terms of rigging this tail properly, let's see if we can get a little IK, FK action going on. It might be a little bit much for, yeah, let's go for it. Okay, so in that regard, I'm going to call this bind tail 1, right? And I'm just going to nick that naming convention. Bind tail 2, bind tail 3, and all the way down. It might be a little bit much, I think. Let's go for it. Let's see where we end up with this guy. Tail 6. Yeah, I think this might be too much. Oh well. That's cool. It's nice to see that the insert joint tool keeps everything still, the joints still nicely oriented. Not like it did in the past. It's always been like that. But as rigging tools start to advance, a lot of, I'm going to mark this as the end effector as well. Yeah, as rigging tools start to advance, you'll start to see kind of improvements in workflow sort of built in, automagically kind of happening, right? So, there you go. So I'm going to take this guy and bind tail. I'm going to parent it to, let's label these guys as well. So I got the root 1, the body, and then I'm going to call this head 1, right? So now we've got a joint chain going this way, and I'm going to take the end tail, control click the root, and I'm going to hit P, and that parents, right? So now I've parented that in. I'm going to just double check. I'm sort of happy now with that joint chain because I know that it's located at world 0, 0, 0, and we're all good. I'm actually going to cheat this tail geometry by adding just a procedural mesh smooth, right? So how I do that is I'm going to pop back over to the modeling menu, and I'm going to go mesh. I'm going to say mesh smooth, right? Ooh, there we go. That's cool. So yeah, I don't want any more subdivisions than that, right? So I think if I just click off that operation, that's cool. What I want to do is now take a look at the attribute editor for the history on this guy, and yeah, we got the smooth face. So I want to edit, delete by type history, modify freeze transforms again. I know it's a bit redundant, but I always enjoy getting the habit of that. So we got a nice smooth tail now, right? So you can also see how subdivisions work, right? The more edge loops that you can get away with putting into your base shape, the nicer the mesh smooth will work. The more it'll retain the shape that you originally intend for that, right? Okay, so that's cool. Our geometry is ready. One of the things I might do with the geometry straight off the bat, which might be helpful, is I'm going to pop back into my channel box, and we'll do the exact same thing we did with the sort of the junk layer. In fact, we could reuse this because I've deleted the joints out of it. So with my geometry selected, I'm going to right click, add selected objects, right? So what that does is it allows me to template the object so I can't grab it when I go to select it. Now I can either go to referencing. Referencing is a darker representation because it shows you your shaded mode and all that kind of stuff. Your textures and everything are revealed, but you just can't select your object. So maybe we'll stick with that. If you want to, you can also come out of X-ray mode, right? Because joints will always be X-rayed. Joints will always be seen visible over the object. So that could be quite a handy view. Let's keep to this view for a sec. Right? So now I've got those guys in there. That's really cool. There's a few things I'm going to do with the geometry. I'm going to take both pieces of geometry and I'm going to select everything and lock and hide it, right? Because remember, we don't set keyframes on geometry, and the same goes for the group node. We're going to lock and hide them. And if I need them later on, I'll show you how you can reveal those again, right? But now, there's no way I can place keyframes on the geometry. So the geometry is all good to go. Character modelers are happy, right? Their work is being preserved. So what I'm going to do with the tail, the bind tail, is I'm going to control D it. Let's duplicate this guy. And I'll call this one IK. Now, with this, what we can do is we can come in here, right-click, and, oops, actually, we've got that guy selected in the viewport, right? There's a little bit of a delay there in the display. So I'm going to select the hierarchy on that one, right? So it should pick all those. Now, I believe it's under here. Edits. Where is it now? Or was it under modify? I'm looking for search and replace names. There we go, right? So in my selection, I want it to search for BND, and I want to replace it with IK and just my selected, right? So I'm going to say go and replace. And it's gone through and it's replaced all those guys for me. Cool, right? Saved me the hassle of having to do it. You can just shift click here to unfurl it just to make sure it's all there. I'm going to select that. I'm going to control D it again. I'm going to shift left click on there to open it up. Yeah, they're all there and all selected. So I'm going to go back to modify and search and replace names. And this time I'm going to change IK to FK, right? And then we'll replace those guys, right? Shift click to unfurl that, make sure everything's looking good. And they've kept the parenting, right? So they're all parented to the root here. Right? So that's good. And yeah, so let's save this off. I'm just referring to my screen captures over here on the other monitor, just making sure I don't miss anything. Because I think I missed the bit about the number of spans that you specify when you create that like a spline handle tool, and it just threw me completely right in the middle of the lecture. So let's see, make sure that we kind of follow all this stuff really, really carefully, right? Okay, so the bind skin tail, that's going to be what carries our geometry. The IK tail will be our inverse kinematic control, and the FK tail will be our forward kinematic control. Both of those chains will control our bound skin tail, which will in effect control our geometry, right? So that's kind of the structure that we're after at the moment, right? Okay, so just having a quick look here under the IK chain. Right, so we need to start building some FK controls for our FK tail. Just debating what to do at this particular point. Let's, yeah, okay, let's do that. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create some NURBS primitives. Yeah, the sphere will be a visible object. Let's, and a square is made up of a whole bunch of stuff. Now, there's a way of creating an implicit sphere. Where did the implicits go? You used to be able to create implicit objects. I don't know, unless they've nested that. An implicit object is just the object in wireframe that doesn't occupy any space and is non-renderable, right? So I wonder if it's in here, if there's a choice to create an implicit sphere. No, doesn't look like it. Oh, that's fine. You know, what we'll do is we will, let's go ahead and color these guys off, right? So I can change the color of this multiple selection by going into the attribute editor, right? And there's an object display and outliner color. You know, let's make the, oh, there's a coloring convention for this. Let's go with red for our IK controls, right? Oh, object display, use outliner color. Am I in the, oh, I'm in the wrong one. Sorry guys, it's in drawing overrides, pretty sure. Yep, there it is. Drawing overrides, let's pop in here and let's grab the, let's go RGB and we'll go red. Done. That should do it. Yes, thank you. Right. So we're going to make a set of red controls for ourselves. Grab those guys. We're going to enable overrides. We're going to use RGB colors and red. Right. So, oh, it'll only let me do it one at a time. Come on. Let me affect the group selection, guys. All right. So, just going to click through and get that sorted out super quick. I'm going to switch back to the right view because I want to now snap these more accurately to where I want them. I probably, let's snap this guy here. Yeah, that'll be okay for the base of the tail. This guy, I want dead center, right? I think we'll probably need a few more controls. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, let's do that. Let's grab this guy. I'll move him down to here. Right? And then we'll grab this guy and chuck him on the end. I'm holding down V-snap, but it seems to be struggling with me. It looks like it has... Oh, that's good. All right. So now, let's take a look at the transforms, because I swear I ran into some difficulty here. I wanted to modify freeze transformations. Oh, it's doing it now. Maybe I tried to freeze transforms on a multi-selection. So let's modify freeze transformations. We don't have any history on that object. Let's grab this guy. modify freeze transformations, or we can hit the G key. Hit the G key. Oh, there we go. Right? So the G key repeats the last thing that we've done. So there will be our IK controls. It's going to be complicated to try and get our FK controls in there. Okay, well, we'll give it a go. We'll see how far we get. One of the things I might do is, yeah, let's modify the controllers a bit here, right? I'm going to grab this. I'm going to right click and I'm going to access the control vertices on here, right? And so I'm going to grab this one and this one, and then I'm going to switch to my scaling tool and do that, right? And then I'm going to right click and go back to object mode. And we will do the same for this guy and this guy and this guy. Let's see if we can multi-select it. We should be able to. No, it's not letting me. So we'll just go one by one, grab these guys. So I'm going to grab these two, and these two, and these two. You can get lost in making control icons for your animatable characters, so be wary of that. Let's make these a little bit less, just the shape of it, right? I don't want it to go through the geometry just yet. Right. So there's that. Let's go through and try and put in our FK controls, right? So for this, let me label these controls actually. So we've got our controls for the tail. Let's try something clever. Let's come in here and say modify, find and replace. This will save us a little bit of time, right? So instead of control, let's see if we can call it IK underscore control. Replace those guys for me. Thank you. Right. So that's cool. We got a control for the ball. And I think we'll just FK the body. We'll probably need FK controls for that as well. Actually, let's do that now. So I'm going to grab this guy. Make sure we're not grabbing the hierarchy, but duplicate him. And, let's parent him under there. And I'm going to move him up so he sits there. And let's go back to the side view. And I'm going to V middle mouse button snap him there. And let's scale this bad boy down because it's a little bit in your face. Hey, where's my scaling gizmo? Okay, to see the scaling gizmo, I'm going to turn on my shading and go to X-ray. Oh, it's grayed out. Right. So I grayed that out because when I built that controller, I didn't want any action on scaling. So this is a good opportunity for me to also show you how to bring channels back, right? So we've got a translate and a rotate on that controller. That controller is huge. So I'm going to go into my channels, edit channel control. And under channel control here, these are all my hidden channels. That you can see it's quite versatile. I can use quite a lot here. But I just want to take my scales and move those over so they'll suddenly appear here. Once they do appear, you can come in here, right click and unlock, right? And it'll unlock those guys, and now we can grab this and we can scale this back. Whoa, we don't want it to bring all that with it. So let's take it out of the hierarchy for a second so we can size it up. Let's take it outside. Why is it influencing the... Aha! I've duplicated these guys. All right, let's kill those guys. I could have used those. All right, so let's scale this bad boy down, right? So that's probably more like what I want, right? And of course, I'm going to modify freeze transformations, zero all those guys out. Come back to my right view. I'm going to Control D to duplicate that guy, and let's V snap this to the head. So we got a head controller. Would it be better here? Let's see, from an animation standpoint, yeah, it's probably better there, right? And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to scale this down. I totally missed that alignment. Let's see if we can get it by middle mouse button dragging there. I want to make sure this is aligned as well. That's aligned, right? Okay, so this one I'm going to modify freeze transformations, right? So that's reset to 0. I'm going to call this guy Control Head 1. And we'll move this guy underneath the body, right? And we'll move this guy in here as well. Control Mid 1. Now I don't know if I want, let's keep the controls separate for the time being. I don't think they necessarily need to be parented. Yeah, they don't. As long as they're following the main body controller, that's good. Obviously, we'll know better if that was an intelligent decision in just a minute. Okay, so let's see if we can. You know what? I don't want to recreate these icons per se. So let's try something a little bit different. But I might want to do those. I might want to grab these guys and then scale them up. Now we should have kept the locked alignment. Yeah, we have. So that's cool. Pop back to perspective view, and I'm going to edit, delete by type. Well, modify freeze transformations, right? So the transforms on all of them should be gone. Reset. Cool. You can see because of the care that I'm taking with this, how much I rushed through the last sort of class. I'm going to Alt-B to darken my background. There we go. Oh, the gradient view is pretty good. So now I'm going to save this guy. I've got incremental save turned on, so that's all good. And yowza, we're heading to 12. I've got another 10, 12 minutes to go. Okay, so with this, yeah, I'll just go in and create a new, let's go and create a new NURBS primitive circle. Let's get this guy scaled up and oriented correctly, right? So I want this to be 90 degrees, right? And then we'll move this guy roughly into place. And, ooh, this is going to be a complicated set of controls. I do want to keep the rotation at the base. Let's try it. It's a bit messy. There are other ways of doing. I can do an offset control and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to sort of soldier through and get this done. So with that setup, it doesn't look a whole lot different, unfortunately, to... Let's make it different. Let's come in here. We'll grab the control vertex, right? I'm going to pop into X-ray again so I can see what I'm doing here. Let's grab this control vertex and the one on the opposite side here. Let's see if we can make it just slightly different, right? Actually, I might, because I like to keep the center reference there. Because it looks like it's completely off the joint, but I think this might be better. So let's try that, and let's scale this in. Right. So there, that's my FK kind of control for that, right? So that's cool. I'm spending some time adjusting this one because I know that I'm going to be going through and duplicating it. So let's get this one kind of perfect. So I'm going to come down to the attribute editor and change the drawing overrides. What the drawing overrides means is how it's drawn on the screen by the GPU, right? So we're going to override it by saying, look, we want to customize the color. And it's default to index color, which is web-friendly colors. It's like the most efficient way of displaying colors. But here we just want the RGB display, so we have the choice. And I'm going to make these ones blue, right? And then lastly, I'm going to edit, delete by type history, although I don't, yeah, there's one history there, and modify freeze transformations. That should, if I flip back to the channel box, have reset it all to 0. That's cool. And then finally, I'm going to name this, right? So we're going to call this FK control and tail 1. Now, if this works, and I control D it, yeah, I get a tail 2. That's cool. So I'm going to switch back to my right view, and we will V-snap this guy to the next joint. Boom, boom. Control D, V-snap that to the next joint. Then G. Control G. I'm just pausing there for a second because there's a way of doing a smart transform, right? Because these are all equidistant apart. So there's a way of going edit, duplicate with transform, Shift D, right? So if I do Shift D, bump, there we go. That's what we're after. And Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, Shift D. And we'll pop out to the perspective view. And there we go. There's our IK controls. Now, I wanted to build these first just to see if I can muck about with the size now. So let's grab all these guys and see if I can do like a universal. Let's do this. Let's try and scale these in this way. That makes it look a little bit different, right? And can we scale it down a little bit? If we scale it down, we lose it sort of inside the tail, right? So that becomes a little bit complicated. Let's try that. Let's just leave it at that. I think that'll be okay, right? And then again, we're going to modify freeze transforms on all those controls. So now we got to grab all of our FK controls and we got to stash them in our control group in here. So I'm going to